Hey folks, Phil Gallagher here for round 5 of our Green-White Taxes League. We keep getting paired against colorless stuff, and it's been a little bit rough. We're going to mulligan this hand, and thank you again to for supporting this week of Daily D&T. And if you're enjoying the content, please consider supporting it in the future. I think I have to keep this hand, unfortunately. My opponent's mulliganed already as well. This hand has severe problems in a number of different directions. We don't have colored mana. If these are dead, we effectively have a 4-card hand. We don't even have like a payoff card to put in off these vials. Life's not good. Life's very, very much not good. Just wasteland me and end it all. Just do it. I'm ready. Seems like they're thinking about it. So the good news is that if we draw out of this, we do have double removal spell for most of the threats that my opponent could play. The bad news is there's a real big if there. BUG. So this doesn't represent days. Alright, Thoughtseize, take my vial. It's almost as bad. I will snap wasteland my opponent given the opportunity on my turn. Unquestionably, especially with how long they took in pausing. Something, something, something. The weakness of playing splash builds. Something, something, something. Okay. So we have drawn out of our mana screw. And we're probably going to get to play a game of Magic. I think this awkward standoff favors me. So my Noble Hierarch's currently a dead card, but any creatures my opponent has are kind of currently dead cards too. So there's that. Yep. So I think this is my opponent just going like, yeah, I know I'm going to need to trade 2 creatures for this. Yeah, no attempt at a fight here. This is kind of cool in that, like, it gets to trade with a Delver if my opponent plays Delver out as a threat, so that I don't actually have to use a Swords to Plowshares on it. Pause may be indicative that my opponent does have a Daze and is figuring out whether or not that's actually worth it. The Daze keeps them from casting something like an Oko if they were to draw one. That would have been real good if I could have put it into play this turn. Please don't Oko me. Thank you. Noble Hierarch can make me have the bigger elk. So that's cool. I'm probably going to choke this opponent. At least when I'm on the play. Maybe when I'm on the draw as well. Veil of Summer will be sick too. Plague Engineer for my opponent on human will be pretty darn annoying though. Gurmag. So it seems like my opponent has a Gurmag but isn't willing to play it out into the sorts of plowshares that they know about. I'm going to play a threat into Daze. I would rather use my mana as efficiently as possible this turn. I'm actually pretty happy we drew the basic forest because that means we're keeping all of his mana and playing around Wasteland. And Thalia Heretic Cathar breaks some of the power level of the cantrips, in that you can't just like pick the best one and then fetch away the others because your fetch lands enter tapped. So on my turn, I can play Noble Hierarch and crash in for 4. I quite like that. Nice, there's exactly what we were just talking about. Mandrills? Yeah, it seems like a Hooting Mandrills is coming. Could have sworn they tapped Tropical Island there. But it's not that big of a deal. I'm going to assume that this gets countered. Oh no, they have 1 card left. It's resolving. What am I talking about? So my opponent no-shuffled on that Ponder, then played Gurmag Angler out into the Swords of Plowshares that they knew about. Does that mean, like, Oko is coming? I don't know. Is Oko even, like, good enough on this board? It might be. It'll certainly buy them time at the very least. Alright, they have a Tarmogoyf. Sure. So that's going to enter tapped. So my opponent just has 1 card, so I can already play around Daze without playing this land and exposing it to Wasteland. So I'm just going to hold this land for a turn. Then next turn, we can play Palace Jailer around Daze and exile this Tarmogoyf. And I will be super well equipped to defend the Monarch. I am like 5 minutes ahead of clock on my opponent as well. So my opponent could have Force plus blue card as their 2 remaining things off of this brainstorm, which would be slightly annoying. But if they don't, I think I win. Alright, they did have it. Force and Daze. So I can attack with a 4 power first striker, but that's not enough. I am going to constrain my opponent's mana. I can take them off of double blue and double black by wastelanding this Underground Sea. My opponent's also losing the race if they attack. So I don't like this attack unless they've drawn another creature. Okay, that's frustrating. My opponent's last 3 cards have been like the absolute literal worst cards it could have been for us. Oh god, it's another creature. It's another delve threat. Hopefully opponents mess up and shrink their Tarmogoyfs. So I can attack for 4. And then attack for 4, and that's not even good enough? Yeah. Man, that's a super, super frustrating loss there. Alright, so I have a giant pile of things that I can consider. I'm obviously not going to board all of this. So I don't really like Prelate against the bug decks. Ballista is probably not where I want to be. I don't think I need to be recruitering. I can just play stuff out naturally. Don't need Knight of Autumn here. I can probably just play something that's not Tireless Tracker to stay on color. So I have so many possible cards for this matchup. So like, let's start with the definites. The definites are Rest in Peace, Path, Council's Judgment. From there, it gets trickier. The Palace Jailer loses a lot of stock if I'm going to board out the recruiters. The Gideons are probably ambitious. Alright, real question. What if I board out vials? Just all of them. And just kind of play this game as Maverick. Is that better or worse than what I'm doing now? If I do that, my flicker wisps aren't particularly good. So just bear with me while I muck with this for a second. But I could just play this like super long, grindy game versus this deck, where I just try to use my higher card quality over time to beat them. I don't hate it. Let's do something crazy. I'm already getting destroyed this league, so like, why not experiment? Keep. Plus, it'll give you all furiously typing YouTube comments something to yell at me for. And I'm all about that. So boarding like this, hypothetically, would give me a lot of game against my opponent's end game stuff. And makes my average top deck very good. I wish we had drawn a Windswept Heath instead, so I could get Basic Forest with this, but Basic Plains is almost as good. I will just Wasteland my opponent here, and just kind of like reset the game in my favor. Since I have so many lands in hand, just every turn, every one-for-one land trade that I make with them just very much favors me. No cheeky mom attack. We'll just hold that back. We don't want to get it fatal pushed or something. Will I play Rip into Daze? Yes, I think I will. Nice. This is a, like, make them have it play that I've taken. I could have the patience to play around Daze, but every turn that I wait just gives them more opportunities to draw outs to it. Well, that's some crap. But I think we can probably beat that, assuming this resolves. And it does. Now my mom attacks start making sense. And my Gideon will outpace this Bitter Blossom in terms of, like, a clock. That's very good, too. They didn't have the Daze last turn. See if they drew it this turn. It appears the answer is yes. Or going to brainstorm. Alright, opponent's going to brainstorm, look for daze or force. And they just concede the game there. Alright, knowing that my opponent has Bitter Blossom, I'm going to put this Knight of Autumn back in the deck, I guess. I guess we'll board out a Flicker Wisp on the draw. Since we're not going to play Vials, playing like a crazy man. Oh, I forgot that I didn't have Jitte in my main deck. That should probably be in the deck. Let's play that over this. My body count is relatively light, so I do think I want to not, like, say, board out the Thalia for it. Yep, we'll be keeping this. I would like to draw another fetch land, so I can start this game out entirely on basics. Nice. So we have to use this one first to get our forest. And we'll play Noble Hierarch. Mana acceleration is probably going to be pretty good. Ugh. That again, huh? Okay. Well, we don't have a choke this time. So that part sucks a little bit. So the next question is, how hard am I willing to lean into Plague Engineer? I don't think I'm willing to dump 3 X1s onto the table. I think I want to give my opponent the opportunity to, like, play a Plague Engineer, I Source of Plowshares it, like they've traded 1-to-1 with me, and then I'll do it. But we'll see. So my opponent did not daze the Hierarch or the Thalia, so I don't think they actually have daze. So I'm going to just slam the Gideon. Alright. We have a Planeswalker in play. My opponent can do a lot of chump blocking. But we can create a lot of bodies, too. And I'll have lines available to me, like Swords to Plowshare's a Fairy Rogue, just like plus Gideon and bash with him for 5, plus another 2 from the Knight ally. I don't know that I'll go that aggressive with my lines, but it's something that's going to be available to me. So are you going to name Human to kill my Hierarch, or are you going to name Knight or Ally to shrink these tokens? I think they'll probably name Knight or Ally, so that they can then trade the tokens for their Fairy Rogues. Nope, they name Human. As long as my opponent doesn't have Force of Will here, this is so insane. Yup. Okay. So am I bashing with Gideon this turn? Or making a Knight? If I bash with Gideon, it probably just kills a Fairy Rogue. So Gideon could get attacked to 1 if I just make another Knight. Then I plus Gideon to 2, and then Gideon dies. Yeah, let's just crash in and kill a Fairy Rogue. Just make it so that it's harder to pressure Gideon, or that I take huge chunks of life out of their life total. Now I'll lean into another Plague Engineer. I don't think you can play around everything. That's frustrating. So if I attack with Gideon, all I accomplish is killing a Fairy Rogue. So I think I just want to make another body here. If I make another body, Gideon's not dying unless the Delver flips. Alright, so we've prevented Gideon from dying this turn, presumably. My opponent's draws have been very good. Good God. Okay, that does things. That does things. Actually, super happy to see that. I don't know that my opponent knows what's coming, but it's real good for me. Choke! No cards in hand from opponent. And bounce Gideon so Gideon doesn't die. Mwah! Chef's kiss. I think as long as I get a land for this Batter Skull, I'll probably win this one. And I did. So, what does opponent have in hand? Daze and Abrupt Decay are the two scariest things for me. Daze means that if I jam the Batter Skull, it doesn't work. Abrupt Decay on Choke means that they open up their mana. They know I have the Gideon. I can play Gideon around Daze. This is a really weird turn. The thing is that if I play the Batter Skull, it requires me to lose 1 life. Can I beat them without the Batter Skull? So if I play Gideon around Daze, and my opponent had the Daze, that's so good for me. So I attack, they probably block with the 2 Fairy Rogues. I can trade with Plague Engineer, or Gideon just like dies to 4 fairies attacking if they don't block. Otherwise, I play Batter Skull, and they just try to find an answer to it with their Sylvan Library and 2 mana. Yeah, maybe this Batter Skull is not my path to victory. No, I'm gonna play the Batterskull. If it's not Daze that's in their hand, this is pretty strong. Like, this is a must-answer thing. So the germ needs to be answered. Okay, great. I'm still very glad to see chump blocks. I was starting to do math for like, what, who. Okay, they're going to just try to take a body off the table. That's fine. So I might need to start keeping edicts in mind. The opponent did not have Abrupt Decay. Or if they do, they're saving to use it on the germ on my turn. I don't need to survive very long. That's not doing much at this stage. Show me what you're working with. Okay, not too surprised to see this block. Okay, Abrupt Decay the germ, that's fine. So now I have this Gideon that my opponent can't counter. It goes and creates me a knight, and next turn I can just equip the Batterskull token, or sorry, the germ to the knight ally, or to the Gideon for that matter. And if I make a connection and gain any more life, I don't think my opponent can win. So like they can hit me for 4 this turn, put me to 5. Or they can kill my Gideon. No, alright, they have to go for me. Two, 4, 6. They can attack for 6. So as long as I gain life here, I win. So what's the way that I can most safely guarantee that I gain life? Probably by plussing Gideon, because Gideon will become indestructible. So the way my opponent wins is by blocking with a fairy rogue and then destroying their own fairy rogue. All right. And that is super tilting. That after all of that, we like lose with my opponent at 1. And I don't think they played particularly well. And they played very slowly. Like, so be it. It is what it is. Well, good thing we had all our good cards at the first half of our deck. Although it didn't really matter. Alright, folks, I hope you've enjoyed. The green splash that I threw together didn't feel particularly good. I think we got some very poor matchups, and I think we were incredibly unlucky at some points in this league. But it is what it is, and I'll see you back again soon for another week of Daily D&T.